Hello, welcome back to Steven's Breakdown. Today we're looking at Warzone 2100. Now this game came out back in 1999. It was made by Pumpkin Studios and published by Eidos Interactive. I think it's Eidos. Might be Eidos, Eidos, Cheetos. I don't know. Anyways, came out in 1999 on Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 1. Now this is an RTS game, real-time strategy, that uses 3D graphics. It's a fully 3D game. Everything's 3D. The mountains, the snow, the rain, the units, everything. Except the menu. The menu's not... Well, no, the menu looks 3D, but it's 2D. It has kind of that 2D, 3D illusion that was popular for a long time. Now, this is a game that is very accurate for its futuristic predictions on how technology will go. Like, they've got lasers and missiles and bolter-style weapons. And, well, we'll get into that here in a bit. Alright, let's get into it. Now, this game has a story and a campaign. Well, it has 3 campaigns. And the story is, it starts out fairly intricate, and they put in some good work into it. But I think kind of towards the end, they just kind of ran out of steam, because they have just a massive lore dump right at the end. Alright, now it takes place in the year 2100, after a nuclear apocalypse. The NASDA, or North American Strategic Defense Agency, which was a network of satellites they launched to be ultimate nuclear deterrent. But it doesn't really make sense. Why would you set up satellites that are built to shoot down nuclear missiles and load them with nuclear missiles yourself if you already have ground-based sites capable of launching these same missiles? That made no sense to me. Anyways, yeah, you have your normal nuclear chaos. NASDA was programmed to start the collapse. They don't really go into what exactly that is, but from what they show you and what little they tell you, basically key cities and areas were struck with nuclear weapons and devastated the power grid and caused, basic chaos. Radiation, chaos, friggin' kinds of crazy stuff. Riding around on military vehicles. Anyways, this is actually one of the few games I've played that has a proper prologue. Pretty much a group of military and civilians managed to flee Seattle in 2086, 1 year after the collapse, and they come across an abandoned base in the Rocky Mountains. Now, it doesn't specify what base this is. I think it's supposed to be the future's version of NORAD, or the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Or it could just be another base. Now, when they come across the base, all the personnel are dead, and they said they're killed by diseases, but I was never convinced that that's what killed them. I don't know. I think they were going to have another little secret. That was going to be part of a bigger story about how Nexus killed them with cyborgs or something. Anyways, they, take over the base, rebuild it, bring it back online, reactivate the virtual intelligence. Yeah, this game has VIs. In fact, this is one of the few games I've seen that has, proper VIs. From what I understand, a VI is a virtual intelligence that isn't capable of making its own decisions like an artificial intelligence would, but is capable of analyzing information and giving and receiving orders that somebody inputs into it. Pretty much, I guess, a communications assistant would also be a good term. Anyways, fast forward about 24 years, and around April of 2100, they launched 3 teams to recover technology. Now, the first team is Alpha Team. They send them to Arizona. The second team is Beta Team. They send them to Chicago. You'd think Chicago would be pretty much wiped out, but I guess not. And they send Gamma Team to the mountains. They don't really specify where in the mountains. It's just north. They show it on a map, but that's pretty grady. I don't know if you can really make out what that is. Anyways, pretty much they're supposed to recover technology. They never really do specify what Gamma Team was supposed to be looking for either, which is, I think that's part of they just got kind of burnt out on the game. When you play this game as many times as I have, you get burnt out on it. Anyways, you, the player, start out controlling Alpha Team. Now, I think your player is supposed to be portrayed as one of the main people of the story, but there's no real cast of characters or anything like that, outside of 3 voice actors and whoever you're supposed to play as. And they never really name your character either. It's really a faceless assignment, kind of like a lot of RTS games. Your job as Alpha Team is to find the synaptic link technology. Cyborg technology. Yeah, this future had cyborgs. We're not too far off of that ourselves. We just need to figure out how to connect the human brain to a computer at a good speed. Anyways, as soon as you land, you build your base, fight off scavengers, which they're the most unique enemy of this game because they are the only enemy that's not directly controlled by Nexus. And also, this is the only campaign you find them in. I guess the only other unique unit would be the civilians in the beta campaign, but you only see them once. For the first few missions, you're pretty much just going around fighting scavengers, clearing out the area, recovering artifacts from them. Yeah, somehow the military base you started and rebuilt from had lesser technology than what random scavengers had. But they kind of explain that part here in a bit. A few missions in, you run into a mission where a group known as the New Paradigm are arming and equipping scavengers. Now, I think they've been doing this the whole game. The New Paradigm is a paramilitary organization that had existed since before the collapse. Pretty much they're doomsday preppers who are dedicated to making a military state. So, like, half of all the militia doomsday prepper states out there. What you don't realize until later on is that the New Paradigm was actually taken over by Nexus. Now, Nexus is an intruder program created by Dr. Reed. Now, in the campaign, in the story, they state that Nexus invaded the systems of both the Project and the New Paradigm 3 months before, but the Project was able to shut down and purge the system. Now, I don't know why the New Paradigm wasn't able to do this. Yeah, their technicians didn't check on it, and it spread through and took over the whole system. Now, what never made sense to me is if it's just a computer program infiltrating the systems, then what is controlling the New Paradigm to begin with? I mean, unless all their people were cyborgs, and it just invaded all of them and took them all over, it doesn't make any sense. If they're a paramilitary organization, you think they would be paranoid about this kind of thing happening and would have people dedicated to keeping it from happening. But whatever, they never really explain it. The New Paradigm has been taken over by Nexus. After a couple more missions, you finally manage to recover the synaptic link technology, which of course the New Paradigm had. Yeah, it was suspected that they had it the whole time, and they did have it. So you battle them, several missions, they attack you, you counterattack them, they counterattack you. Finally, at the end of the first campaign, you launch a full-scale attack on the New Paradigm's main base, which is actually fairly impressive. Although there's a glitch in the game I played, in the 2 versions I've played, where a bunch of cyborgs will just randomly spawn in this one spot for some reason. I don't know why. You defeat the New Paradigm, destroy their base, and find out that, yeah, Nexus was controlling them the whole time. And also that Nexus has been sending them out to recover Synaptic Link and all that. What's funny is I think part of the New Paradigm weren't fully controlled by Nexus, because they did take one of the artifacts with the Synaptic Link technology and analyze them for themselves. I bet they thought that Nexus was a friendly, helpful artificial intelligence that had just been left over from the war. They had just not been destroyed by the nukes, and they were just like, oh, well, it can help us with this, so let's use it. And they thought they were pulling one over on it, but really they were going to get blown up one way or another. Anyways, Campaign 2 is not really much different from the first campaign, except it's in a city location. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Campaign 1 takes place mainly in desert. It's all desert. You got desert buildings, desert units. Well, no, you don't have desert units. Something kind of interesting about the New Paradigm is that they have desert-style units. Lightly armored, fast units. Which suck. They just suck. Anyways, Campaign 2, Chicago. Pretty much, beta team sends you a communication saying that they are under attack and they need help. And you get this really cool cinematic. Anyways, you take a team there, repel the attack, and then take control of Beta base. Now, the group attacking Beta team is the Collective. Yeah, they weren't mentioned earlier, but during the whole team update, which I imagine we're supposed to have more of as you go, but just kind of stopped, they had mentioned another force operating in their area before, which was obviously the Collective. Now, I'm not sure what the Collective are supposed to be. I don't know if they're supposed to be a religious organization that formed after the collapse, that just that created this virtual intelligence. Because it's not really explained. And from the artwork of this VI, it's confusing. It's not really clear. There's some kind of religious commune. There's some kind of religious organization that they must worship technology or something. Anyways, and I wonder if the Collective wasn't created by Nexus to go out and take over the Chicago. I don't know. Anyways, now Beta Team, their mission, VTOL technology. Yeah, I know, again, a technology you think would be fairly simply, not that hard to figure out. Anyways, now just like in the last campaign, the enemy hasn't. Yeah, the collective has VTOL technology. Either they recovered or it was given to them by Nexus. More likely, though, they recovered it. Anyways, after you retake control of Beta Base and rescue a team from Alpha Base that crashed, even though you never designed those units and never sent them, you go and destroy a large collective base, launching VTOL attacks at your base to the northwest of your base. And that's where you find the VTOL technology. After you research this, you can build VTOLs. This is kind of a weak part of the unit design, in my opinion. I'll get more on that later. Anyways, as you're destroying this base, you also find several civilians being corralled and captured by the collective that somehow survived the radiation from, when a bunch of nukes hit the planet. Anyways, you drive off to the collective's transport, waiting to pick them up and rescue the civilians. It's actually kind of an interesting deal they put in the game. Too bad you only use it once. Now, after you do this, the mission briefing that you get after you finish this mission tells you that the civilians tell you the collective was looking for people with knowledge on nuclear reactors and nuclear technology. Because apparently they had found a nuclear reactor, and guess what? That's your next mission to go and deal with. You send a team to shut down this nuclear reactor that they haven't gotten powered up yet. You go and take it over. This is a really artillery-heavy mission here, if you ask me. I always have fun messing around with that part of it. Anyways, you go and take it over and find out that Nexus was going to use the reactor to power Nazda Central, and you're sent to capture that. After you capture Nazda Central, you discover that Nexus has successfully managed to reconnect with the satellites in orbit. And then they tell you in the briefing that Nexus has launched nuclear missiles towards something. Yeah, they don't know where it's going. And then you find out Alpha Base was the target. Anyways, Beta Base is next. So you go to destroy a bunch of AA facilities, keeping you from escaping. Then the evacuation of Beta Base begins. In the evacuation of Beta Base mission, you're supposed to load up all your units and evacuate. Or what I do is just load up 2 or 3 teams and then just recycle the rest. Because at this point I have a ton of units. Now once you do this, it gives you a pretty cool cutscene. Yeah, all the cutscenes in this game are pretty cool. Of the transport somehow escaping the nuclear blast. Yeah, these transports don't mess around. It shows them making some pretty hard turns and slick moves. Anyways, for some reason you evacuate to Gamma Site, even though just before you had cleared and set up an area for a secondary Beta Base. Well, actually, you get dropped off just south of their main base. Now, once you get there, you clear the general area of Nexus forces and set up another base. That's something nice about this game. You really only have to set up one base. Once you do that, you find out Gamma Team, which had been sent to investigate the initial missile launch, tells you where it is, at the same time telling you they're under attack. You send a team in, they take out the facility and stop the last nuke from launching, which was targeting Project HQ. But at the same time, he didn't know where Project HQ was, so unfortunately though, that missile that was getting ready to launch is armed and ready to blow. So you have to take that team and hide them kind of in a spot where they're not going to get destroyed damaged by the nuclear blast. Which they're not, and they show up later on. For some reason, even though they were safe from the blast, for some reason you lost contact with the transport before it gets back. After that mission, you go and help Gamma Base, which has been taken over by Nexus and was just waiting for you to get to them before they triggered it. After they trigger it, you have to destroy them, hopefully not get overrun, destroy the surrounding Nexus bases, and kind of at this point, it's revealed that Nexus is infecting and triggering the project systems. And it's kind of a weird back and forth between, you're getting a general objective, but at the same time you're not, and you have Beta Team telling you this, and Gamma Remnant telling you this, and then at some point, Alpha Team sends you in communication. Oh, by the way, the first time you hear the Alpha Team's voice actor,
"We require immediate assistance. We are under heavy attack from cyborgs, laser..."
That is a good voice actor. Oh, by the way, the Project VI is Louise Fletcher. She was the voice of Nurse Ratched from The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, she's a pretty good voice actor. Anyways, this is the point where Alpha Team Commander dumps just a bunch of lore on you all kind of at once. He says that after you left the Alpha Base, they took out another new paradigm facility, an artifact with technology, pretty much antivirus software for something like the Nexus Intruder program. Anyways, he gives a pretty solid history lesson about Dr. Reed being Nexus. In 2080, the Reed Corporation landed a contract with the military and to develop cyborgs, which they did successfully after about 5 years. Although, they must have done it successfully within 2 years, because it also says after they did that, he landed another contract for 3 years. Oh, maybe it just said he landed a contract for 3 years. No, wait, it says after 3 years of no progress with the second project, they cut funding and it kind of drove him to madness. Anyways, the second project was going to be a project to meld the mind with machines. Not quite patterning from Total Annihilation, but more of like, I guess a good example would be like the virtual reality interface from Futurama. Basically, the person's mind would be uploaded to cyberspace while their body was a suspended animation tank, which is pretty much what Dr. Reed managed to somehow do. Yeah, somehow in 3 years he wasn't able to accomplish it, so the military cut his funding and it drove him nuts. But somehow within a month of after that happening, he managed to succeed, build a facility to put himself in, and essentially end the world, execute his plan, infiltrate NASDA, and completely cause the collapse. He used Nexus to cause the collapse. Now, my question is, if he was so successful with cyborgs and Nexus for the military, then why did they cut his funding so quickly after not having all that much time to work on the other project? That's a good question. Now, it's one of those holes in the story that you just kind of gloss over for now, because at this point you're so far into the game you just want it to end. You just want it to be over. He somehow managed to do this and transfer his consciousness into the computer system, where he pretty much is Nexus. Honestly though, if you're paying attention to this game, you've kind of figured that out by now. Well, actually, they don't really talk all that much about it, but seeing as how that's literally the only company named in the game, and earlier on they talk about how Nexus was developed by the Reed Corporation, it's pretty obvious. Oh wait, I guess if you're just playing the game for the first time, it's a pretty big reveal. Anyways, yeah, what's kind of interesting is when they put the faces of Nexus and Dr. Reed together, he pops up and says, he kind of surprises you that he's in a system. He was in the system the whole time. Pretty much gives you 5 minutes to get out, or he's going to start shooting laser satellites at you, which he's slowly moving into position. But lucky for you that these satellites are very inaccurate and very damaged, so they're just randomly shooting random things. It's a wonder that they're even still up there. In fact, let's take a look at those satellites for a minute. Yeah, I don't think that these were designed to operate independently from one another. Yeah, they look like they're mainly ground operating satellites that are supposed to be controlled from the ground, and I don't think in the future they would have come up with a advanced thruster system that runs solely off of solar power. Yeah, I give these things like 2 years before they start to decay to the point where they just crash into the planet. Hell, it's a wonder the missiles and the silos were still working. Unless they're newly constructed missiles by, cyborgs or something, that would make sense. Now you may be wondering, if Dr. Reed using Nexus caused the collapse, then how come he didn't initiate his plan as soon as it all happened and didn't just start taking over the entire world after the nukes fell? Well, there's a reason for that. With all the EMPs going off from the nukes, fried whole sections of Nexus. So he's pretty much been trying to recover himself this whole time. That's why it took him so long. Yeah, it's also revealed that NASDA technicians manually shut down their systems to try and purge Nexus, and that's why the ground-based anti-missile system didn't do anything when the collapse happened. Which, that's a pretty solid explanation for why, because you only see a few nukes going to the planet, or at least in certain areas, but NASDA did nothing. Anyways, you have 5 minutes force Nexus out of your systems before he destroys you. But the research for the anti-Nexus system takes like 15-20 minutes each. Yeah, there's a reason that people use the work harder, research things faster cheat code. Honestly, I couldn't get through this game until I did that. I got to the part where you run into the new paradigm, and it's just like, good lord, I cannot get past this. Like, no matter what I tried. I swear I tried playing through this game honestly, and I just could not get past it. So I went ahead and just cheated and finished it again. Although this playthrough is not the playthrough where I tried it honestly. Now, this playthrough is the playthrough I just kind of blew through to get some footage for this video. Anyways, pretty much what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to take about 20 minutes to do all this, to research, while at the same time lasers are randomly firing at you. There's no guarantee as to where it's going to hit, but it's pretty impressive when it does. Once you do that, it's revealed that there's a NASDA missile site just south of your position that you can go take over. So you go take it over, and you launch the missiles, and they destroy the satellites. Oh, before you can launch the missiles, you have to research 3 different codes that take 15 to 20 minutes each, all while freaking lasers are shooting at you. After this, it shows you a cutscene of the missiles hitting the satellites, I'm kind of surprised those missiles were all still good. Because, you know, from what I understand, rockets capable of reaching space take a lot of maintenance to maintain. I don't even want to talk about that. This is a breakdown, but good lord, this is going on long enough. And we haven't even gotten to how cool the graphics are. I guess I did mention it. Anyways, after you do this, you're sent on your final mission. In the final mission, you have no time limit, which is actually kind of a nice deal, because through the whole game, you're given time limits that are just annoying. Some of them aren't so bad, and sometimes you don't have to deal with them, and most people, I imagine, just use time toggle to stop the timer. Although, if you do that and take too long and send a transport somewhere and you've waited like past your time limit, you'll run out of time and fail the mission. Yeah, this game was designed to have, I think, like a 20 to 30 hour campaign. But if you cheat, you can blow through it pretty quickly. But I just cheated. I don't care. I have no shame for that game. I'm not going to feel bad. Especially using time toggle. I've played it 50 times. I'll be fine. The only experience you're cutting out by stopping the timer is, oh, now it's not as tense. Although most missions didn't really need a timer to begin with. Except for the time the nuke is coming, the laser satellites are firing at you, and technically the final mission should have a timer, but it doesn't because that mission's supposed to take quite a while, and yeah, I don't think a 2-hour timer was going to do it. Or they were just like, hey, we'd stuck you with timers for all this time. Now here, don't worry about a timer on your most stressful mission. Anyways, moving on. Pretty much you have to find Nexus's main facility and destroy it before they can fully take over the project. Yeah, because all that stuff you researched to try and stop Nexus didn't really do all that much. Now, once you do this, oh yeah, this last mission has a structure that forever I could not figure out what the hell it was until I found out how to get into the debug menu and I was able to deploy it. It's a plasma pit. It fires pure plasma and it's pretty awesome. Its range is all over the map. And this thing was pretty devastating, even if you used cheats. Because, you know, using that hard as nails cheat to make your unit stronger, yeah, they're still vulnerable to fire, and they still take damage. Although in this later version, once they get to 0% damage, it doesn't blow them up. In older versions, it blows them up. Once you go through and destroy, you don't have to destroy all the bases, but you're supposed to pick up certain artifacts. Because this last mission, I think, is supposed to take several hours. You're supposed to use a combination of artillery and VTOLs to destroy the enemy defenses and then march forward with heavy units and destroy the base. But I just cheat and use the power of lasers because I was just tired of this game again at this point. Moving on. Yeah, it shows you a cinematic of them bombing and blowing up the Nexus base. And that's actually pretty cool. I always enjoy these cutscenes. I think they're pretty solid. Anyways, the voiceover talks about how they've recovered almost all the technologies they needed, which are some pretty freaking advanced. They've recovered all the technologies they needed to help rebuild the world, and they can finally start rebuilding. But at the same time, it turns out the voice that was talking was Dr. Reed the whole time. It shows an uplink center firing a laser into space at an unknown location. Some like System Shock 2 level stuff here, you know? I think this game was supposed to have a sequel, or they put that in there just so when it made enough money and was popular enough, they could have made a sequel. Which a lot of shows and games did that and still do that. Which I don't mind. I kind of like that. I'd rather have that than a sequel to something that was not set up to have a sequel. Now that we're done with the story and the campaign, we can get to the music. There's 4 tracks. There's the menu music, which, you know, is pretty cool. There's track 1, track 2, track 3, which I didn't realize there were 3 different tracks. All these tracks are good. They're all good. My favorite one is the track 1, where it starts out with people just randomly talking over the radio. Yeah, and that's about it on music. Alright, on to the gameplay and graphics. Now, my favorite part of this game is you get to design your own units. You have the body, you have the propulsion system, and you have weapon or system attachment. Now, I'm not going to get into all the different types of bodies and the weapons and attachments they have. Otherwise, this would turn into a 3-hour-long video. This video is long enough. And there, you know, each faction has its own 3 different body types, you know, light, heavy, and medium. Personally, I only use the project bodies, which I think are basic pre-war body setups. I think the only other ones that were designed pre-war are the new paradigms, because those are desert. They're clearly designed pre-war. They're just slight variations of the project. The Nexus ones were designed post-collapse. fucking collective. Those look like just random hunks of metal thrown together. Yeah, there's a reason they're slow and strong. Another really interesting part is throughout the game, in order to get more stuff to design and build, you have to research recovered artifacts. Now that's a big part of this game too, is the artifacts. Yeah, there's not really a lot of games out there like this. There's some that try, but this one does a pretty good job with that kind of stuff. Now, the map is 3D full view from any angle. Yeah, you can turn the camera, look at the stuff from any angle. It's pretty awesome, I gotta say. It was one of the high points of the game alongside the unit creation. I'm not happy that the only weather you get is just basic rain and basic snow, but I don't think they were going for a big weather part. This was 1999. Come on. One big difference this game has compared to a lot of others is you don't have to constantly rebuild your base after every mission. I mean, you can build defensive, you'll build defenses at landing sites, or maybe a forward operating base or a fire base from time to time, but it's not every mission. You build one main base and go from there. And sometimes you have to build a second one, or you have to rebuild it if it's destroyed, but you just build one base. Now, units, even though they are somewhat impressive to look at, they can get stuck very easily. Sometimes when you tell them to go somewhere, they'll start dancing. And it'll match up with the music perfectly. But yeah, units can easily get stuck. They don't bounce off each other. And I don't know if there wasn't a setting to change that, I don't think. Now, I probably should note that the version I'm playing is version 3.1.5, so it may be different for the newest of the older versions. Oh yeah, you probably noticed the transports are kind of odd looking. They have some serious moves. There's a multiplayer part of this game, but I didn't really look into it all that much. I don't think it's much different from Skirmish. Well, speaking of Skirmish mode, this game does have a Skirmish. Yeah, it's pretty much your basic Skirmish. You have different maps, different amounts of AIs you can play against. I mean, it's all the computer just playing against you. And you can set up teams and stuff like that and alliances, but you can also set up a rule to make no alliances. But if you go into the skirmish mode and research and do research all, you can see that they had big ambitions for this game. They had some big ambitions. But you don't see most of the stuff in the campaign. Something kind of disappointing to me, though, was if you use the code to, use insta-structures and get yourself in a scavenger factory, you can't build scavenger units. You can't even spawn them in randomly. Oh yeah, the only cheat that I've found that crashes the game is if you insta-structure a scavenger power generator and try to add a module to it. Crash my game. Oh yeah, all the units and structures in the environment are 3D. The environment is also somewhat interactive. You can destroy parts of the environment, and some of the buildings actually have an animation of them collapsing. It's really kind of cool. But the trees and the, smaller buildings, all that other stuff, it just blows up when you shoot it. Now, this game does have a unit limit. Yeah, there's no real way to track that, and I hit that all the time. Now, this game also had a demo, but I'm not really sure how to find that, and that was the first thing that I saw of this game, but I'm not sure how to get to that, and I don't know if I still have it. The cheats and debug mode of this game are so helpful. I've played through it so many times where I've come across a few missions from time to time where I'm playing this game, and it's like, what do I do? How do I finish this mission? And I just use that, to hell with it, let's finish it. Well, the original cheat was Hallo mein Scats, which I'm not really, I think that's German. But the new cheat, and the one I found, was Let Me Win. Yeah, this game has a full array of cheats. I think they were mainly made for the debug mode, so they could go through the game and find any bugs and stuff like that. This game has a big emphasis on artillery, and one of the main parts of using artillery is having sensors. It also has a big emphasis on sensors and radar detection. Well, you can only build 4 kinds of sensor towers. You got your basic sensor tower, you got your counter battery sensor tower, and then the VTOL equivalents of the sensor towers. The counter battery is actually kind of an interesting trait of this game. Basically, you set them up, and they use sensors target enemies based on where the enemy's fire is coming from. It will detect where indirect weapons are coming from by tracing the arc of where the projectile came from, and then targeting that location using the projectile's arc, and targeting their own assigned units or batteries. It's actually kind of an interesting concept. I don't know if that's done today or if that can be done today, honestly. Now for resources, this is different. Time and oil are your only resources. You can build power generators, but all they really do is power the oil derricks. Yeah, this game was somewhat realistic on the where oil's going to be in the future. It's not going to be super abundant, although in the game it is pretty abundant. Now, the only thing your HQ really does is give you radar. Yeah, that radar map comes in pretty handy too. Now, there's only really 5 characters of this game. There's you, Alpha Leader, Beta Leader, Gamma Leader, and then Dr. Reed, or Nexus. I mean, I guess the VIs are technically characters too, and there's only 3 of them. I count Nexus as Dr. Reed, so he's not really, he's a person. The Project VI is my favorite. Louise Fletcher does such a good job with that. The new paradigm sounds more like a freaking, I don't know, it sounds like a robot. The new paradigm are actually somewhat unique, and the collective AI is just odd. Now, this game for graphics uses the iViz 3D graphics engine that was developed by Sam Kerbeck of Eidos Interactive. This game is fairly realistic, except for the air power part. Yeah, those VTOLs are not, that's how VTOLs work somewhat, but that's not how a jet fighter would, work. Yeah, you don't have bombers or planes, you have VTOLs. And they're somewhat handy, but they could have used some work. Now, the game was received fairly well, but failed to gain a sequel. Yeah, the critics will point out, various reasons, all kind of different from one another. Average 7 to 8 out of 10 is what the critics thought of this game. Let's talk a little bit about the developer, and yeah, this game has a bit of a history. It was developed by Pumpkin Studios and published by Eidos Interactive and released for Windows and PlayStation back in '99. But shortly after this, Pumpkin Studios stopped providing support and was shut down by Eidos Interactive. They later on came back as Pivotal Games. Now, support for the game may ended in the January of 2000. But fan-base patches managed to keep it going up until the source code was released in 2004. Unfortunately, they didn't release the movies and soundtrack until 4 years later. But that didn't mean you couldn't still enjoy the game. For future on support, the Warzone 2100 project was created and continues the support for the game. They've released various stable versions. The version I'm playing is 3.1.5, because I tried getting the 4.2.7, but I couldn't get the videos downloaded. I just couldn't get it to work. I got the game to work, but I couldn't get the videos to work. That's one of the best parts of this game, is the videos. The cutscenes. They're so cool. They add so much to this game. Do not play the Steam version. The power of laser compels you. I initially tried playing this on the Steam version for this video, but they've changed so much. It didn't add units, but it added different this and that. I couldn't get it to play in full screen, and something I discovered was that when you research one thing, it replaces another. Pretty much every time you get a newer, updated version of something, it replaces it. For example, you start out with machine gunner tanks, but once you discover twin machine guns or heavy machine guns, it replaces those entirely, and you can no longer build, design, or do anything with them. That's not that big of a deal, but when there's as many variations of that stuff in this game as this game has, it's a big deal. Also, the Steam version was not supported. Most of the fan base does not seem to support the Steam version. Yeah, they don't much care for it, and I don't think they're going to be seeing any support for a long time. That being said, though, if you like Steam, and you love this game, and you want Steam to have a version, go for it. If you want to support them, you go for it. I don't care. But change that mechanic. I like having various weapons to research and work with. God damn it, I want all the machine gun tanks working together. Now, this game is available on Steam, but I wouldn't download it. The best place to get it is to go to the Warzone 2100 website, download the official version. And I'm sure if you follow the steps, you can get the videos working, but I'm not that great with computers. Video editing I've somewhat figured out and I'm slowly getting better at. But I'm not a coder. I don't know how to make scripts or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know, so I work with what I can do. That's pretty much it. That's Warzone 2100. It's an advanced game for $99 with some of the most dedicated fan base I've ever seen a game had. And I enjoyed this game. And I'm glad that there's people out there that dedicated to something like this. So if you want to play a military strategy simulator set in the future, this is definitely the game for you. That's been the breakdown of Warzone 2100. Stay tuned for the next episode where I put my brain in a computer and I use the power of lasers to shut them all down.